My wife stopped touching me. Do you know what that does to a person? To lie beside the woman you promised your life to, night after night, and feel only a cold emptiness where her warmth used to be. To reach for her and watch her recoil as if your hand carried poison. That silence, that invisible wall, it doesn't just wound you once, it kills you slowly, piece by piece. At first, I thought I could bear it, that maybe time would heal whatever had cracked between us. But then her best friend looked at me with a softness my wife hadn't shown in years and whispered the words that unsettled everything. Kiss me. Intimacy never disappears all at once. It dies quietly, in fragments too small to notice until the absence becomes undeniable. It begins with a kiss missed before work, a shoulder turned in bed, excuses dressed up as fatigue or stress. I'm tired. I have a headache. Not tonight. At first, I dismissed it as life wearing us thin, work schedules, long days, exhaustion. But weeks blurred into months, and the excuses felt less like temporary burdens and more like a permanent state. That's when it struck me, she wasn't just tired anymore. She was gone, even while she lay inches away from me. I fought for us in silence. I bought flowers, planned dinners, even arranged a weekend getaway, believing maybe all we needed was time to breathe together again. But she carried her distance everywhere, like armor, and nothing I did could pierce it. The hardest part wasn't even the rejection, it was her indifference. She didn't notice, or maybe she didn't care, what it was doing to me. Do you know what it feels like to ache for the touch of someone who once couldn't keep their hands off you? To sit beside your wife, close enough to hear her breathing, yet feel invisible? That became my reality. And I didn't dare speak of it. What man admits his wife no longer wants him? The only one who noticed was Rachel, my wife's best friend. Rachel had always been part of our lives, comfortable enough to walk into our house without knocking, familiar enough to know what was in our fridge. She was lively, outspoken, the kind of woman whose presence filled a room. Lately, though, she had been watching me with questions in her eyes, asking if I was okay in moments my wife barely looked at me. One evening, after dinner, when my wife retreated upstairs, Rachel stayed behind. She studied me longer than anyone had in months. "You okay?" she asked. I forced a smile, but she saw through it. She always seemed to. It started with little things. She lingered to help clean when my wife disappeared into her phone. She laughed at my jokes like they still mattered. Her hand brushed mine when she passed a glass, sending sparks I pretended not to feel. But loneliness is a tide. You can't hold it back forever. The pressure builds until it breaks you. The breaking point came one night when my wife was away on a work trip. Rachel stopped by to drop something off, and we ended up in the kitchen, talking over coffee. At first, it was nothing, work, movies, small talk, but then she asked softly, "Does she even see you anymore?" I froze. That single question cut deeper than anything, because it was the one I'd been silently asking myself. My throat tightened as I tried to laugh it off, but the truth slipped out, "No, not really." Rachel's expression softened, and she whispered, "She's blind then, because you're you." The air between us shifted. Silence grew heavy, charged. Her eyes locked with mine, unflinching, and then she leaned in just slightly and said it, "Kiss me." My heart hammered in my chest. Every thought collided at once. It was wrong. It was betrayal. And yet, it was everything I had been starving for. Someone wanting me, someone seeing me when I had been invisible for so long. I didn't kiss her that night. I pulled away, muttered about it being late, and walked her to the door. But her words lingered like a haunting refrain. "Kiss me." They echoed louder than anything my wife had said to me in months. After that, I noticed everything about Rachel. The way her gaze held mine, the way she listened with a depth my wife no longer offered, the way she made me feel present, alive. And as my wife's distance grew, Rachel's presence filled the void. I wish I could say I held strong, that I kept my vows intact. But loneliness can make even the most steadfast heart falter. One night, when the emptiness became unbearable and my wife was once again absent, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, I let myself slip. Rachel was there. Her hand found mine, and when she whispered again, "Kiss me," I did. It wasn't the kind of kiss you see in movies. It was messy, desperate, soaked in years of neglect and hunger. But it was real. For the first time in so long, I felt wanted. I felt alive. And then came the guilt. It gripped me instantly, heavy and suffocating. This wasn't who I believed myself to be. I wasn't a man who betrayed vows. But then another thought crept in. Hadn't my wife betrayed me first? Not with another man, but with her absence, her neglect, her silence? I carried that conflict for weeks, unable to look at Rachel the same, unable to look at my wife without bitterness. Every word, every glance at home became poisoned with secrets. And then, one night, as I lay beside my wife, I reached for her out of habit. She sighed and turned away, clutching the blanket tighter, leaving me with nothing but the wall of her back. No warmth, no love, just emptiness. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even hurt. I was hollow. That was the truth I had been avoiding. My marriage wasn't alive. Rachel's kiss hadn't broken it. It had simply revealed what was already gone. When my wife finally asked why I seemed so distant, I didn't confess about Rachel. Instead, I told her about us. About how she had abandoned me long before I failed her. About how I couldn't keep living in a marriage that felt like solitary confinement. There were no shouting matches, no dramatic ultimatums, just quiet recognition that we had let something precious die. Walking away wasn't easy. But staying would have been a slower death. Because sometimes the cruelest form of betrayal isn't infidelity, it's neglect. It's making the person who loves you feel like a ghost in their own home. Rachel's role in my story will always be complicated, but she reminded me of something I had nearly forgotten, that I was still human, still worthy of touch, affection, love. My wife stopped touching me, and in that silence, she lost me. But in the eyes of another, I found the courage to face the truth. I deserved more than cold space in a shared bed. I deserved to be seen.